2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 20. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Push it. 9, 30, 20 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 40. 10 more counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 50. Good job. How are you feeling? Ndio tumeanza. From there, tunaingia hop squats. Okay? These are hop squats. There. Goes are chini. We're still doing the same reps. 50 reps. We good? Remember, short breaks. We're pushing that cardio endurance. You good to go? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. 20 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Remember, I want you to go down squatting, eh? And give me a deep one. Let's go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Woo. How are those legs feeling? We're here. From there to your high knees. Okay? I'll show you 2 variations. First variation here. Okay? Second variation 1. Just in case you can jump up. Are we good to go? 50 reps. Are you ready? Let's go. 1, 2. Use your hands. 4. Pull it from the roof. 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 10. If you're doing this one and relax the same, okay. Those are 12, 13, 14, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know go to 7, 8, 9. Those are 30. 20 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push it. 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 40. 10 more counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Push it. 8, 9, 10. Good job. You're still not taking a breather yet. I'm gonna give you a 1-minute break. Our last workout, tunafanya burpees. 20 burpees. Okay? If you can do the military burpee with a push-up, even better. If not, this is what I'm looking for. Here, jump back, forward, and up. That's 1. Okay? If you can jump backwards, place the hands down, step back, step forward, forward, stand, 1. Okay, so whatever modification you're going to use, give me a proper burpee. You can input the push-up as well. We're going for 20 counts. Are you ready? Let's go. 1, easy. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 10 to go. 1. 2. 3. Push it. 7 to go. 4. 6 to go. Those are 5. 5 more. 6. 4 to go. 7. 8. 2 more. 9. Last one. And 10. Good job. We're taking a 1 minute breather. Our time is on. So relax, breathe, wipe that sweat off your face. How are you feeling? You good? So that's our first set. Should I get a second set? We have 40 more seconds to rest. Just breathe, relax. You can be on your mat. Go on a baby pose. Couple. And just breathe. You're here. Up. Just breathe. Okay? I'm basically here. There. Up. Just breathe and relax. Go back to the baby pose there. Child pose up. How are you feeling? You good? Our time is up. Good job. We're starting the second set. Now, we're only adding 25. Our target is to hit 100, okay? So jumping jacks, you're going for 75 instead of 50. Mountain climbers, 75 instead of 50. Are you good? Cardio, body weight. Push it up. Push that cardio endurance up. Remember, you only need 20 good minutes to do this workout with me. And I promise you, your body is going to thank you later. Are we good? Let's go. 1, 2. Take your time. Move easy. 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 30. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 40 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 50, 25 more. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're doing good. 5, 6. Push it. 8, 9, 10. 15 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5 to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's a wrap. Are you okay? Are you good? Perfecto. From definitely our mountain climbers. Mountain climbers the same thing. We're adding it up by 25 counts, okay? So instead of 50 reps, we're shooting for 75 reps. Are you ready? You good? Twende kazi. Down there. Like I said, if you have a stool, kama kwenda chini sana hapa, it's too much for you. You can elevate it up for a stool, press the hands down, and still able to do the same workout. Good job. We go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are 10. Those are 20. Remember, we're pushing the cardio. Those are 30. Those are 40. Those are 50, 25 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good job. How are you feeling? Are you panting like I am? Are you sweating it out? The beauty of bodyweight workouts is you start to get comfortable with your own weight, with your own body weight, okay? So it's a good way to lose weight fat. Cardio is a good way to burn as much fat as possible. So keep it up. From upper to maybe a hop squats. 75 reps. Breathe out. Breathe in. Out. Breathe in. Out. Last one, breathe in. And out. Hop squat. Are you ready? 75 reps. Move on your pace. Ukikuacha nyuma, no worries. Just try catch up. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going easy. 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is that 20? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 50. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 20 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Woo. Them legs, eh? Breathe in. Relax. How are you feeling? I'm feeling it, I kid you not. Good job. From there, our second last workout, then get high knees. 75. Yeah? Mwingine nataka kuacha, sikatai. So standing, knee raises, if you can do, even better. If you can't, We're on the knee raises. 75 reps. Are you good? Let's go. 1, 2, easy, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 20. Push it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. 1, 2. Push yourself, guys. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 50. 25 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job. Take a 30-second breather. Relax. 30 seconds. Just breathe. Wipe the sweat off your face. If you want to sip some water and walk, just relax. Breathe. Breathe. How are you feeling? Let's go. 30 more seconds. Put your knees down. Hapo. Child pose hapo. Tuna kumalizia na burpees. That's why I'm giving you a good long break. Because I want you to hit the burpees once off. 30 reps, we are done. 15 more seconds. Just breathe. Take your body back there. Place your back down. Up. Just breathe. 10 more seconds. Breathe. Breathe. Good job. Good job. Perfect. Hope you're ready. Tenga is up. Tuingia burpees. Leo tunaenda pole pole, sijasukuma mbio sana. Remember, if you can do this workout with very minimal breaks, it's much more effective. Even though we're still doing it, it's still effective, but I would highly recommend. Take at least 15 to 20 seconds. Try to push it. 15 to 20 seconds in between each workout. And I'm sure your heartbeat will tell you something. Good job. 30 burpees. Then it's a wrap. Are you ready? Twende kazi. Remember, variation your burpee. You can step back, back, come forward, forward, and up. Okay? If you can do with a push-up, the same way I've been doing it, let's push it with the push-up. We're only doing 30 reps. We are done. You good? I'm watching you. Twende kazi. One. Take it easy. There, step. Give me a push-up. Step. Yes. 2. So either way, whether you're jumping back, you're doing the step, you can still be able to do the push-up. 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, let's go 8, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20, 10 more. Woo. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 to go. We're almost there. 4 to go. Last 3. 2 more. Last one. Woo. Ah. Oh my God. I love it. Good job. Okay, chin up. How are you feeling? You're taking a 90-second breather. Relax. As we rest up, this is what I want you to do. Can we go up? Holding your knees there and relax. Just breathe. You have 90 seconds. That's a good one. That was a nice, sweet and short cardio in the morning to start your day. Ah, breathe. Breathe. Even me may feel, trust me. Are we good? Just breathe there. Good. Can we go up with you? Hold your head up. Just activate tumbo. You don't go too up and just relax. Just breathe. Just breathe. Can we go to you? It's okay, Apple. Just hold it there. Yes, there. Just breathe. Go now, Apple. Just hold it. For 20 seconds, okay? Just hold it there. Go now, Apple. Just breathe. Perfect. How are you feeling? Are you good? From there, just for a minute, tufanye sit-ups 20 peke yake, then we are done. We do a stretch, we call it a day, or rather we start the day, okay? Give me 15 good push-ups, okay? Not push-ups, sorry, sit-ups, okay? There, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, last one, 5. Woo! Good job. Thank you for staying tuned to NTV and for joining me and Eve every morning for NTV Tizi Nyumbani. We are grateful and we love you. So we do a stretch, then we can start our morning in a hyped way. Okay? We stop. So we're here. We want to kuja ndani and reach for your toes. Hapo. Just breathe. Good. Cross it over. Push it in. Try face backwards. Just breathe. Good. The other leg. Same. Up. Reach for your toes. Just breathe. Perfect. Up. Face backwards. Just breathe. So we stand up. Shrug our shoulders there. Good, backwards. Twist your neck round. The other side. Good. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in with the nose, breathe out with the mouth. Breathe in. Out. Breathe in. Out. Last time, breathe in. Out. Thank you for staying tuned to NTV Tizi Nyumbani. Be sure to stay locked in again tomorrow morning for another awesome workout. Good day. God bless.
Pata 50% extra credo bila expiry ya kupiga na ku-SMS across networks. Piga star 444 star scratch card pin hash, na kama ni M-Pesa star 444 star 2 hash. Safaricom for you.
Kenya's flower sector. 104 billion shillings in export revenue in 2019 and a source of employment for thousands. How is the sector faring as economies across the globe begin to reopen? What is the outlook for the sector as Kenya enters new agreements in the bilateral trade space? This Tuesday, Business Redefined delves into an analysis of the flower sector and the rebound following the COVID-19 shock.
I'll count to 3, okay? Then after that, move your foot away. 1, 2, 3.
And it's your time now. But it doesn't have to be this way. I let you and your sister live peacefully. You just need to tell me who else you're working with against me and where to find each one of them.
Did you know there's a laundry bar soap that can help save you time, water, and money? You save by not having to use multiple products. And you only rinse once. For a laundry soap that can help save you time, water, and money, try Whitewash Extra. Brand power, helping you buy better.
This is NTV.
Good morning, East Africa, and welcome to yet another episode of Your World on this 4th day of August. Now, religion is considered the moral compass and at the core of society. Now, the coronavirus pandemic has disrupted how we consume religion and called for new thinking in the way religious institutions cater for their congregants. Today, I will be joined by an interfaith panel of religious leaders and spiritual mentors as we find out the role of religion during this season and the future of religious institutions. My name is Gladys Gachanja, and welcome to Your World.
But those who will reopen will have to follow strict protocols, including providing hand washing or hand sanitizers.
Churches and mosques are back in operation, but how does that look now and in the future? Well, we find out in a few. Belgian residents flocked the beaches in the middle of the pandemic due to the heat wave across the region. Despite their harsh living conditions, the displaced in Nigeria still observed Eid. And a Pakistani sheikh has turned his car wash into a cow wash. Thank you for joining us on the broadcast. Now, as I mentioned earlier today, with religious institutions slowly reopening, our question of the day to you is, have you visited your place of worship? How was the experience? And if you haven't, why? Give us your opinion, your comments on the same. Remember that hashtag New Normal on our social media platforms, and you can also text us or reach us using that number at the bottom of your screen. And as always, we keep track of the numbers in as far as the effects of COVID-19 around the world are concerned. And speaking of which, those numbers this morning stand at 18,443,484 people who have been infected with the virus. Totally, those who have totally recovered stands at 11,672,917, and we have unfortunately lost 697,189 people to COVID-19 around the world. Now, how does it look like in Kenya? Well, according to the government, this far 22,597 people have been confirmed to have COVID-19. 8,740 people have recovered, and 382 Kenyans have lost their lives to COVID-19. Again, that message being reiterated: do take care of yourself, take the measures to protect yourself, and in extension, protect others. Now, a look at some of the stories making headlines in this season, loudly chanting the opposition to face masks and vaccines. Thousands of people gathered in Berlin on Saturday to protest against coronavirus restrictions. Police put turnout at around 17,000, well below the 500,000 organizers had announced as they urged a day of freedom from months of virus curbs. Despite Germany's comparatively low toll, authorities are concerned at a rise in infections over recent weeks, and politicians took to social media to criticize the rally as irresponsible. Few protesters wore a mask or respected the 1.5 meters social distancing requirement. Berlin police tweeted they had launched legal proceedings, action against organizers for not respecting various hygiene rules. Elsewhere, bulldozers are at work at Sandaga Market in Dakar. The iconic market is over 80 years old and is being demolished in order to be rebuilt as part of a modernization program aimed at redeveloping Senegalese markets. Abdul Karim Fofana, the urban renewal minister, said it is a big measure which comes ahead of the modernization of Senegalese markets because Sandaga is possibly the most iconic market, but the ambition of the President of the Republic, Macky Sall, is to ensure that all cities have modern markets infrastructure which represents the requirements of our time. And to something that centers us to our conversation of the day, the Interfaith Council have advised each congregation to formulate a COVID-19 response team to help regulate and oversee the guidelines given by the government in the phased opening of worship areas. Worship places are required to clean and disinfect after every service, with special sanitization measures taken for those presiding in public worship.
Worship places began preparing to receive congregants after the government approved a phased reopening, but it will not be a commune as they knew it.
Ukiangalia kama pale ndani sasa viti tutakeep distance kulingana na vile tumeelezwa. Wengine wale hawawezi kuafford mask, itatubidi tuanunulie.
The Interfaith Council proposed that the reopening be done in 4 phases, but those who will reopen will have to follow strict protocols, including providing hand washing or hand sanitizers, using thermal guns for temperature checks, ensuring that face masks are worn properly at all times, ensure a distance of 1.5 meters between congregants and a maximum of 100 persons per service. The sick and the elderly should stay home.
Please, let us not rush without preparations. We all understand the great eagerness and longing we have, but with some patience and preparations, we can safely reunite soonest possible.
Even with the joy and relief that comes with the reopening of places of worship, leaders are asking for the adjustment of some of the measures.
Kuna ile sifa sisi tunafanya ya kukaribisha uwepo wa Mungu. Sasa ile sifa ikiwa ndogo, hata uwepo wa Mungu hautateremka. Kwa hivyo sasa itatubidi atuongezee muda kidogo ndio tuwe na wakati wa sifa Mungu, nguvu za Mungu zinateremka. At least kitu kama 2 hours. Wachungaji marafiki zangu na wajua kanisa zao ni kubwa, ziko na watu kama 1000. Itabidi wagawe kama ni mara 3 ama mara 4. Wanaweza tengeneza tent ya watu kama ni 50, wengine hivyo.
Those above the age of 58 are also not allowed in church, a directive that affects a number of church leaders.
Viongozi tutawacha viongozi wao wajue ya vile watakavyofanya na watakaosikizana.
The coronavirus has forced religion to rethink its tradition. Handshakes, hugs, or holding hands will have to be put on hold until the threat has passed. Ruth Sarmoi, NTV.
That is our reality today, even as we slowly go back to our religious institutions. And remember, our question of the day to you is, have you gone back to church, to your mosque? And if you haven't, why? And if you have, what has been your experience? That hashtag new normal. Now, to help us have this conversation and also understand what the future of religious institutions is, I am joined in studio by Sheikh Ibrahim Lithome. He is a religious leader and also a lawyer by profession. We're also joined by Reverend Edward Buri, who is a parish minister at the Thome PCEA. We're also joined by Pastor Carol Wanjao, who is a senior pastor at Mavuno Church. Also joined virtually by Reverend Canon Chris Kinyanjui. He is the General Secretary at the NCCK. And of course, we are joined by Bishop Martin Kivuva, who is the head of the Catholic Church in Mombasa. Thank you all for joining us on this conversation. And even as we go through the season that is the pandemic, we are asking the question, how are you doing? Away from church, you as Sheikh Lithome, How are you coping with the season?
Of course, now we have embraced the new normal. We cannot do business as usual. When I'm at home in my small mosque in Kajiado, I go to the mosque and pray. But when I come to Jamia, which I represent in Nairobi, the doors are still closed except for the staff because we are not able to open at this phase. We are waiting for the next phase before we can begin business as usual. We have removed all the carpets from the mosque. We have marked the places where the worshippers will stand to ensure there is social distancing. We have invested in thermoguns. We have invested in sanitizers, which are placed at strategic points within the mosque. People are no longer hugging, no shaking hands. The ablution area, that is the wet area in the mosque, which is very important because we cannot perform worship in the mosque without performing ablution. That is closed, and we are telling the worshippers, can you do it at home? Come when you are ready. And if you're not feeling very well, you think you are not okay, remain at home. So this is what we are doing now, but our doors are still closed, except for the small mosques. Eid, of course, was very low-key because of the COVID.
Okay. And speaking of Eid, what are the things you miss about when things were just normal?
Of course, those large congregations, for example, in Nairobi, Ali Muslim Club, where we'd have close to 1 million people praying together, hugging each other after the worship and congratulating each other, inviting each other for meals. We share meals together. Of course, we had to advise people no visiting each other. If you have to share a meal, can you package it nicely and send it to the other house? Because you invite them, you don't know what they are bringing in. Of course, that's very far away from the norm. That has not been the normal practice on these days.
Okay, Pastor Carol, over to you. How are you doing in this very interesting times we're living in?
Yeah, it has been a very interesting season. I think we have been more busy than at the time when, church was opened. And we have been busy kind of just mobilizing the congregation to ensure that care is happening in the homes. Care cannot happen now in the church. And so we were really working hard to, kind of mobilize people together into home groups, into home church, helping parents understand that they are now the spiritual leaders in the home. I think when we first started off, it was so interesting. Parents didn't know how to pray with their children. And, this has been a very interesting time, especially in the initial days when there was a lot of fear and a lot of, a lot of uncertainty. And so we would make care calls. We did a lot of care calls. And we had, parents just telling us, how can we pray? Would you teach us how to pray with our children or as families? And so we have been very busy kind of strengthening the home front because we understand that is where care takes place. That is where whatever information that we're passing through from the church, that is the first place of contact. Because, now we're not meeting physically, we're doing a lot of virtual meetings. All our meetings are now virtual.
Okay, and Reverend Canon Chris Kinyanjui, it definitely is no longer business as usual. How are you doing?
Well, thank you very much, Gladys. For us as the National Council of Churches of Kenya, our churches are many. We have about 32 churches. And the first thing we did once this COVID pandemic was declared is to hold consultation and ask ourselves, once we have this COVID, how do we go on with pastoral care? And one of the things that came up was the need for us to close so that at least we can protect our members from being infected with the virus. The second thing we did is to check how we can carry out pastoral care, because people, when they go to their homes, they still need pastoral care. That is by calling, by sending SMSs, by using the jumuiyas and the cell groups to actually build the spiritual strength, the mental strength of our members so that they can be able to handle the pandemic. And then the other issue was the prayer and worship, particularly at the family level. It is something that value very much that a father and a mother, and where they are single parents, they can all come together with the people that are at home and worship together. And then the other issue was the counseling, because it was a shock. And shock comes with a lot of pain and a lot of loss. People could not go out, people could not go to work, they have to wear a mask. A lot of counseling had to go into it, so that then people are prepared psychologically and spiritually to handle the pandemic. And that has borne a lot of fruit. We have seen a lot of families now coming together and being prayerful and worshiping and doing Bible study together.
Okay, and now Sheikh Lithome, even as the Reverend touches on the importance of counsel, how are you reaching out to the Muslim faithfuls now that they're not in the confines of the mosques, but life is going on as usual?
We are relying a lot on the social media. So we have a lot of sermons that are recorded, and then we send them out there to the people. Fortunately for us in Jamia Mosque, we have a TV station also. So we're doing a lot also through the TV station for those who are able to access that. So that's what we are doing. And then we are also encouraging, because we have different scholars that are attached to us in different mosques, and we keep on sending messages to them and information to them to share with the congregations in their places of worship. So actually we're relying a lot on virtual worship, virtual sermons and the rest. That is what we are doing.
And for the longest of time, I think religion has always been that space where you have a personal relationship either with your spiritual leader, a spiritual mentor. And this is not the case now. At a time where people are going through uncertainty, how are you ensuring that you can shepherd those that really need that kind of one-on-one care?
Of course, that is very difficult now, and it's not easy. We are trying to do it, but it's not easy. We are relying on people we call du'ats. Du'ats, actually, these are like preachers who reach out to the people in their homes, and they take advantage of every small occasion, maybe to visit people at home, and also small congregations within the villages. We are relying a lot on them, because we have to appreciate not everybody has access to the internet. There are far-flung areas that do not have access to internet. So we are relying on those scholars at the grassroots, ma'alims who are supposed to be teaching children in the madrasas. The madrasas are closed. So these are the people who are actually talking to the people on the ground in funerals and the rest, taking advantage of those occasions. Funerals, weddings, of course, they are no longer the usual weddings with big crowds, just a few people, but usually there is a scholar there. So we are telling them, take advantage of any occasion where you can talk to the people. So we are investing a lot on sharing information with the people, that with COVID or no COVID, worship has to continue, but you have to accept that this is a reality we have to live with. And we say religion has envisaged that a time will come when you are forced to do things in the abnormal way. Like now, from March actually, even the call for prayer has been different. Usually the call for prayer, after praising God, we usually say, come to the mosque. But it changed. It was pray wherever you are. Pray at home. Actually in Arabic you say, Sallu fi buyutikum. Pray, and it's been sad, but now we have learned to live with it. Until recently now, when we were given the license to open our doors, now the call for prayer now has gone back to normal, but we are still encouraging people that this is a reality we have to live with. It cannot be business as usual. So this is what we are doing. But it's not easy. It's difficult. People are not used to this, because people are saying, I never thought one day in my lifetime I would pass outside a mosque and the mosque is closed. I never thought one time in my lifetime I'll be told, don't come to the mosque, pray at home. Then there's something else also. It might look minor, but for a Muslim, this is very important. The social distancing. In the mosque, when we are praying, actually the imam, before he starts the prayer, one of the things he advises the worshippers is, can you get close to each other? Because we say it is an opportunity for bonding. Now, actually, the imams are saying, observe distance, which is totally the opposite of what is the usual, the normal teaching of Islam. But we are telling people we have to accept this new normal.
Okay, and Pastor Carol, the communing within the church is something that has totally been disrupted with the social distancing, of course. And for those that have been told not to get into church, we're talking about those above 58, those vulnerable with underlying conditions, and the children. How are you making sure you cater for their needs?
Okay. I think one of the things, Gladys, that we have come to understand as a church is that you're right in saying that this is a new normal, and we do not know how long it is really going to last. And so for us, it has been thinking, how do we adjust? How do we adjust? How do we even help our members adjust to this new normal? And it's been very interesting to see that the adjustment has gone very well. So if we're talking about children, I mean, as long as the schools are closed, we do not know, until schools reopen, we don't see ourselves opening our doors probably until next year. And so for us, a key thing has been working with families, empowering families. We've been doing seminars, for parents, helping them understand, okay, this is what you do during the holidays. Talking with parents and saying, okay, these are the issues. These are even the ways of identifying drugs, for example. This is a way to tell when your teen is engaging with drugs, and this is what to do. So it has been a lot of equipping of parents when it comes to their children, and just really helping them cope, especially now that the holiday, the schools reopen next year. And so our services are actually online for the children and even for adults. In addition to that, as we've been thinking about families, there's also the economic, just helping people economically at this particular time. And so we have been involved in relief efforts as a church, or as the church's Mavuno as a movement. We've been involved and just fundraising for relief for members amongst us, who require that relief. We have been doing what we call soccer days, and all these are online, where we have a day when members can advertise and trade with each other, and we are encouraging people to do that. We've been doing services, or again, online services, where we're helping members understand, by the way, I think for us, it's the mental shift. A key thing has been to help people understand the times have changed, and we cannot do business as normal. That is not going to happen. And so we're helping people understand, how do you shift your business? How do you shift the running of your home? How do you shift? So for us, the big thing has been that mental shift for our people, to help them adjust to the new normal.
Okay, and Reverend Cannon, there are a lot of challenges that are coming out of this season at a time where we've seen a rise in domestic violence, we've seen a rise in teenage pregnancies, SGBV. As a church, how are you working with society to curb these incidences?
Well, thank you, Gladys. One of the things that you realize is that once COVID was announced and people are now in their homes, the distance among relatives within the family was reduced, and then they spend time and they are idle and they are not necessarily engaged in activities that normally they would be. They're not leaving their compound, or they're not leaving their social space. Then what happens is that issues of incest started arising among the children, and sometimes also affecting the relatives that they are staying with. We also had issues of violence, because people get caged and they feel like they are in prison, and the mental space that people have in a normal day gets reduced. So what we did as a church is to counsel the people. Our pastors, through our trainings, because we have been training our pastors and training our churches to actually be able to respond to the needs and the mental needs of the people, so that then where there is violence, people are counseled. Where there is a bit of disagreements, people are brought together for some form of arbitration, so that they can be able to live together. There was also a challenge of the children, particularly the teenage children, because with the age of technology, where most of the homes had Wi-Fi, some children have phones in urban areas. there was a challenge because they're able to access some of the sites that have adult content, and some of that has influenced a bit of what we have seen in the increase of teenage pregnancies. There are instances even where children of the same family, they impregnate one another. So this is a deplorable situation that we are dealing with. Part of it is just to help the parents to take control. The parents are the ones that are with them, so that then they are able to talk to the children. I know children are normally in school and in boarding and in other places we haven't been able to speak to them. Empowering the parents and equipping them so that they have tools, so that they can talk to the girls, they can talk to the boys, because although we are seeing pregnancies among the girls, the boys are also affected, not just with the pregnancy because they're involved in it, but also with the drug abuse and other illicit activities that the boys are also doing. So we are reaching out to that. The other issue is also working with the police. We know the police, of course, are also overwhelmed by the number of domestic violence calls that they get. And that is where now the local community and the Nyumba Kumi comes in, working with the churches, working with the pastors, working with the law enforcement agencies, so that then people are helped to calm down and to live with one another. Because again, there's nowhere that you can take some children, they will still live with the same parents. It's just to equip them and to give them the moral support and the kind of spiritual backing that they require and the tools they need to be able to live together as man and husband. But it is a challenge that we still carry along, and we are working closely with governments to deal with.
And speaking of challenges, let me bring in Reverend Edward Buri, who is the parish minister at the Thome PCEA. And some of the other things that have been seen is that there's a lot more consumption of alcohol and substance abuse in this time, whether to deal with stress or otherwise. And of course, a lot of it amongst the youth. I know you have the heart for the youth. How can this be catered for by religious institutions?
Okay, thank you, Gladys. One of the things that we would clearly observe is that COVID has exposed a lot of things. In addition to it being the condition that it is in terms of the human body, but in terms of our society as well, COVID has exposed a lot of things. And one of the things is that it is not well, with our young people, because, for instance, if we are in school and we imagine that they are okay, and when they come home, maybe it's for a short time, and so it's a limited time, and that time we're not able to learn them very well. But now, during this extended time, our culture has been exposed in terms of what it is, what it really is. And when young people are finding themselves in these practices that are destructive to them, it is an exposure. It is something that has been underlying in our society, but now the COVID time has just exposed it, right? And it is very important at this particular time that even as churches reflect on the way forward, it is critical. It's very obvious that going forward, churches must intensely invest in youth ministry. For a long time, youth ministry has been a sidekick or has been a ministry that comes after others. But given the intensity of the young people and the way they are exposing themselves to these destructive habits, then it's very important that as churches think of reopening, that they actually strategize very heavily on youth ministry, because that is the one frontier that this COVID season is really revealing to us that we must really, really invest in. So one of the big takeaways from this COVID season is that young people must be really, really focused on in terms of investment, in terms of time, in terms of programs, because it is not well with them.
And Sheikh Lithome, he brings up the role of the youth and how we need to cater for them. Something else, if we were to go back to some of the guidelines that were put in place to open churches and religious institutions, was that over 58 cannot go to church, which now says the group that has been left in church is the young generation. What's the role and the space for the young and the importance of balancing leadership in religious institutions in terms of age?
Of course, they have a very important role, especially in the religious community or in society generally. The youth play a very important role. And if we lose our youth, we are losing the future, actually, of the country. So it's very important to make sure that we take care of the youth. And let me add maybe to what the others have also said here. What COVID-19 has done is that it has exposed some weakness in us. Because if we have to address the problems that we are facing now, we need to look at the underlying root causes. And for me, if you ask me, I think one of the underlying root causes is that as parents, we have always relied on institutions, maybe the schools, madrasas, Sunday schools and the rest, and even the places of worship to nurture our children. And it's like we have relegated that role to these institutions. COVID-19 now has exposed the weakness in the way we parent our youth. And that's why we find that we're having all these problems. It has also exposed us, even as couples, that we cannot spend a lot of time together without having a conflict with each other. So we have to learn. And for me, it begins with responsibilities. Each one of us has to take up their responsibility. And even the youth themselves have to be reminded on their responsibility, because we are living at very difficult times. Because my child could be locked up in their room and even the lights would be off, but I don't know what they are doing through the social media. I don't know who they are talking to, what kind of influence they are getting. And you can imagine now they have a lot of time. They have a lot of time. And I don't believe and I don't agree with the parents who say, the solution is very simple. What I'll do, some of them will say, "Ntamnunulia kamlika mwizi." So it doesn't have a lot of those applications. I say, I don't think this is the right thing to do, because they can still access that gadget or those applications through cyber cafes, through friends. So the solution here is to make sure that our youth are responsible. So we need to inculcate in them responsibility. And of course, religious teachings are full of those guidelines. Now we need to invest a lot in that. That you have to, at the end of the day, you young girl, you young boy, you need to take care of yourself. And this is what is expected of you by God. And for you, if you want to go to heaven, because most of us religious leaders, we keep on talking about a good place in heaven. And I keep on saying, I want to differ with most of my colleagues and tell them, for me to earn a good place in heaven, I have to live a good life in this world. And then I'll earn that good place. So we really need to invest in that information with the young people, tell them to be responsible, because you cannot keep on policing them all over. Let them police themselves. And what better way of doing it than nurturing that spirituality? So we need to invest a lot in the youth. Please be responsible, take care of yourself. Your parent will only be with you for a certain time. When you're locked up in the room there with your gadgets, nobody is there to police you. Take care of yourself. When you're out there with your friends, we cannot police you. Be responsible. So we need to really encourage our youth to be responsible.
Okay, well said. And across the field, the Turkish president on Friday led the first Muslim prayers attended by thousands in Hagia Sophia since the controversial reconversion of the iconic Istanbul cathedral into a mosque. Disinfection operations were carried out to prevent the spread of coronavirus, and the UNESCO World Heritage Site in historic Istanbul was first built as a cathedral in the Christian Byzantine Empire, but was converted into a mosque after the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople in 1453. Now, the Council of State, the highest administrative court, on July 10th, unanimously cancelled a 1934 decision by modern Turkey's founder Mustafa Kemal Atatürk to turn it into a museum, saying it was registered as a mosque in its property deeds. And still on the issue of the youth, we say we inculcate responsibility and spirituality in them. Reverend Canon, when we were speaking earlier, you said there is a big debate right now about the laid down measures of who should attend church in this season. The older generation feels like they're being pushed out. Is that really the fact here?
Yes, I would say yes, because part of the discussions that we have, and I sit at the Interfaith Council, was who is going to attend the services when we open. And We debated on whether we should limit the age at 70. We came down to 60, but eventually the medics and the experts said 58 is the year. So if you're 58 years and above, your immunity is suppressed, and therefore it will be important for you to take caution in this first phase. There has been debate within the religious circles, because even in the IFC, there was a feeling that we will exclude the main body of leaders within the places of worship. We know that our worship leaders and our religious leaders are people above the age of 58. Some of them go up to 60, 70, and some are even at 80. And they are the majority. They are the leaders, whether it comes to congregation or in charge, whether they are the imams and the pastors and the bishops and so on. And therefore the issue was, should we reopen the places of worship and then exclude them from participation in the worship? The other thing also is the membership of the churches. There is also a very big number of people above the age of 58. And that has been a major, major concern. And there has been also a feeling among the youth that now it is their time, that because we have excluded the older generation that are generally the ones who are seen in front, seen leading prayers and seen leading in the administrative functions, that now they can come and take that space, and perhaps by the time COVID is over, they will be the ones in charge of those mosques and churches and temples and so on. So there has been debate, which is an intergenerational debate that are going on. Some of it, of course, has not gone very well, but we have advised our churches that it is very important that at this point, just like we have said, the COVID situation has exposed some of the weaknesses in our systems. We do not have young people in leadership position in our places of worship. And this is the time for us to mentor them, to coach them, and to train them. But at the same time, the young people should not take up leadership and exclude those that are perhaps above 58 years. The people who are older are also supposed to take part and be served by the churches even as the pandemic continues, so that then they mentor them. And obviously, even when the situation improves, they will still be in charge of the leadership, because there are actually guidelines and constitutions that and the law that governs how leadership changes in the churches. But that's a debate that I can tell you for sure. It is there in some churches, and we hope that it is going to ignite a way of training and coaching and mentoring of the younger people as they come on into leadership.
Speaking of which, Pastor Carol, Mavuno Church seems to have a very young face in leadership. Is this by design?
Yes, it really is by design. I think Africa is a very young continent. I think the statistics show that 75% of Africa is actually below the age of 30. So for all of us here, if we are above the age of 30, then we are in the minority. And so I think for us, we're really, really concerned. We still don't feel that we are there yet, but we are really concerned about the youth and about remaining relevant to them and reaching them and helping them as far as their faith goes. And so for us, it has been something that we're very intentional, just even given the statistics. And I think there's someone here who said, without the youth, there is no future. And I think that the danger that we face, even for ourselves at Mavuno, and this is a question that we've begun, to speak or to talk about, is that we are also aging. We are now, in our 40s, and we are aging, and we do not want, for the church to get old. And so we are actually just really having very intentional conversations on the next generation. And, as the Reverend said, bringing them up, coaching them, training them, and helping them understand that they have been called to leadership. And it's not one for tomorrow, but it's a conversation of, and I believe that there's a place for both. There's a place for the older generation. They really do have the wisdom and they are the sages, and we do need that. And then we have the younger generation. And so from a leadership perspective, the question is to ask, so what roles do each play? The younger ones have the energy to run and to run ahead and, to conquer and to expand. Whereas, the older ones, such as ourselves, we have the wisdom. And so how do the two generations work together, and how do we leverage on each other's strengths? So I think that would be my comment on that. Yeah, we do need that, and to understand, yes, we do need a future.
Now, when we started the conversation, we said the church is considered a moral compass of society and the very core of society. And Reverend Buri, at this point, there is a concern, and somebody is putting the religious institutions to task here. When we talk about equipping our youth, equipping our families with the right information, especially when it comes to sexual education, this is something that has been shied away by the places of worship. Is this something that we are re-looking at now, considering the circumstances?
I would want to say also that young people have already taken control in some areas. For instance, for many churches, they're just being thrust into the area of technology, right? And we have to really go online. We have to do all these programs. And the people behind that innovation and are really the young people. So we can say, yes, young people technologically may be on the background, but they really are on the front line. They're the ones who have sustained the church during these COVID times because of their technological wit. So in a way, young people are already on the front line in that area. And it's the issue of now trusting them and just allowing them to move from just the background of technology to even the front line of worship and the pulpit and all that, because young people are not to be doubted. They are really to be affirmed because they have it, as Pastor Wanjau has said. In terms of the sexual education and that area, it's definitely, if Gladys, to be honest, it's not an issue only of young people. The whole issue of sexual sin is prevalent now. It is very prevalent in our entire society. So young people are just a section, and they have their own form of being grabbed by that sin. But it's a larger sin that really has got into our society. So in terms of young people and them and their, the sexual issues, the moral issues that they have to be addressed also in the context of the larger issues, of the larger immorality in the society, so that young people are not focused as the source, as the epicenter of immorality. No, they've been taught, they have learned. And so we have to address the issue of immorality from a holistic point of view, because the moment you focus on young people as the epicenter of that, then you are doing the wrong thing. So let's all take a holistic approach to this so that young people benefit from that holistic approach to restoring morality in the country, and also having what we can call a moral renaissance in the culture.
Okay, and I know, Sheikh, you're very passionate about this area, especially because you feel there is a need to speak as it is, call a spade a spade and not a big spoon. How are you going about it in Islam?
Gladys, one thing we have to appreciate, nature abhors vacuums. So you either come in with the correct information, or the youth are going to get it from wherever they're going to get it, and maybe it might be the wrong information. So more than ever, we need to get into this thing, face it head on, that this is happening to the youth. We have premarital sex, it's out there, very young people engaging in sex, and we can see the consequences. And we cannot just point that accusing finger to the youth. We need to ask ourselves, where have we gone wrong? And now purely from a religious point of view, I think we have failed the youth. And when I say we, I mean we as the religious leaders, because some of us have shied away from the topic, and even parents have shied away. So we have left our youth to get this information on their own, maybe from their peers, and some of them might have gone wrong, so the youth also get it wrong. And I know this is a controversial subject, but for me, it is not controversial. It is very religious. Sex has to be discussed. The only problem is what information or what package of information should we give to the youth at what age? And this is now where we have a problem with the purely secular approach. For me, the correct approach should be this. And this is there even in Islam, the teachings of Islam. At every age in life, then there is a dose that is supposed to be given to this child. About, let them know about their body and how each part of the body functions and what they need to do. At another age, they need to be given that. So it has to be packaged according to the age of the child, but this is a topic that we do encourage parents to discuss with their children at home. We should do it in the pulpits, in the mosques and in the churches. We should discuss with our children and tell them this thing. We need to live today, not 1400 years ago. We need to know during the times of Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, they didn't have access to all this information that they have today. Now we have this technology. They're getting information from the technology. We need to help them get the correct information, steer away safely in the sea full of sharks and the rest. So I want to blame religious leaders for shying away from this topic. We have to face it, but then package it according to the religious teachings. It has to be sensitive to our values as religious communities, but this is a must. And we have, more than ever, COVID has exposed that this is a vacuum and we need to fill it sooner than later, otherwise we're going to lose our youth.
Reverend Cannon, have you been shying away from this?
Well, I support our leader there, Sheikh, and thank you very much for those comments. I think there has been too much technological changes in our community, and our society is changing so fast that I think in the way we train ourselves, the way we train our religious leaders, the way we prepare ourselves for serving our communities has been lagging behind. There has been a gap in terms of the kind of information our young people have. What I'm saying is that there are young children who are 3, 7 years old, and they have a lot of information that most of us had not gotten access by the time we were even 30. And some of it is to do with areas of politics or science, or even how our bodies develop, and sexuality and sex as well. So I would say that that gap is what I think we have to see how we can be able to bridge it. And I think there are 4 institutions that I think and spaces that this needs to happen. One is that we already know that 2/3 of our population, about 75%, are below 35 years. That's a very huge number of people. And these young people have a lot of technological access to information that even their parents do not know that they have. So we have the community, and the community, as children are interacting in their community, they are accessing a lot of information from peers that needs to be checked and filtered and also guided by the parents. The second one is schools. Right now, schools are closed, but they are going to be open very soon. And school is also another space that is spent quite a substantive amount of time with peers, with teachers, and of course, they're interacting with each other in the bars and if they're in the boarding. There's a lot of information that is coming there that needs to also be guided by peer counseling and training. And that is why we work with schools, particularly for us within the NCCK, because we have a very big number of schools that are sponsored by NCCK churches to provide chaplaincy, to provide a way of counseling, and to support the teachers so that they can be able to support the children. The other one is the home. The home is the biggest one, because at home, then the parents are the ones that are responsible. Again, we have a gap there, and we have been asking our churches that they need to come up with programs for parenting. A lot of young mothers and young parents and young fathers are not able to help their children as they grow up. So you'll find a parent, they get their children, by the time they are becoming teenagers, they haven't been prepared enough so that they can be able to talk to their children, so that then they prepare adulthood. And then the other space that is very, very critical is home, the school, and the community. And then the place of worship. I think that is where Sheikh Ladome has talked about. When we come to our churches, I think we haven't had sermons that are touching on this. So what we are encouraging our churches within communities that they need services, special services and special workshops and seminars for the young people, so that the message that is coming from the pulpit is not just for the grown-up who are above 35. We have a message for the younger people below 10 years, below 20 years, below 30 years, the young mothers, the young fathers, and the parents, so that then the family becomes the place that is strengthened. Because as you know, the family is the fundamental unit of society. And as soon as we start seeing some frictions and breakages and violence and loneliness there, then we know that is going to translate into the society. So we have a road there. I can say there's a gap, but that gap is difficult to fill.
Okay, and speaking of social responsibility, especially in the time of COVID, outgoing Secretary General of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, that is PCA, Peter Kariuki Kania, who passed on last month, was laid to rest in Kikuyu, Kiambu County, and Reverend Kania who succumbed to COVID-19 at the Nairobi Hospital, was buried in accordance with the Ministry of Health protocols. Deputy President William Ruto, who attended the burial, urged Kenyans to comply with the government's COVID-19 guidelines that seek to stem the surging infections. C.S. Kagwe read President Uhuru Kenyatta's message of condolences to the family and church fraternity, saying there is a collective need for all Kenyans to observe the guidelines put in place to contain the pandemic, which has affected global economies and human lives. In his message, President Kenyatta regretted that Reverend Kanai died when his services were needed most in uniting the country.
Thank you so much. Now you give us space. Let us not point fingers. Let us take up our responsibility individually as citizens to ensure that we do not lose life and to ensure that we minimize infections by adhering to the protocols that have been issued.
Reverend Peter Kania Kariuki has remained amiable and humble, and those who knew and interacted with him benefited immensely from his selfless leadership, wisdom, and generosity.
And I bring up the topic of social responsibility because this is an indication of the adverse effects of not following protocol, especially for those that are being told takes personal responsibility. Reverend Buri, there is a section of people who are saying the church has also failed community by not adhering to the rules that have been laid out. Hence, what we are seeing is just a reflection of the church. Do you agree?
The church definitely in terms of identity has been, again, using the word exposed by COVID, because the church in terms of its role in the society is really supposed to be exemplary. And whatever the measures that have been given by the state are really measures to preserve life, and the church is an organization that's supposed to be an agent of abundant life. And so if there is an institution that needs to be on the front line, even to an extent of being further creative beyond what the guidelines have said, it's the church, because we want to preserve the people. We don't want the worship space to become a death chamber or a corona chamber. We don't want that. So it's important that the church really takes these guidelines seriously and be exemplary. I think to be nice to hear the church being cited as one of the institutions that has really complied strongly, and is doing very well in terms of supporting life at this particular time. So for the church, also taking this, the way we understand these instructions or these guidelines is very important, because they are supposed to be also places for us to think and to reflect. There are benefits, actually, even theological benefits to the instructions that have come from the government to the church. So the church must, and I say again, must be very, very exemplary on this matter.
Thank you for that, and we'll be taking more comments from Sheikh Lithom and of course Pastor Carol on the same. But before we do so, I'd like to look at some of your feedback as you speak to us, answering that question: what with religious institutions slowly reopening, have you visited your place of worship? What has been your experience, and if not, why? Malene says, nope, the Bible tells us to respect those in authority. Now with children under 13 years and parents over 60 years have to worship from home. Very true. If you've been told to stay home, stay home. Mariam Suleiman says, I went for Eid Salah on Friday, but we were just a handful of sisters, and so social distancing was maintained. The fear is real. Past Eid Salah, most could barely contain the huge numbers, but on the other hand, on the brothers area, as many as social distancing would allow attended. That is very encouraging to know that many are following the laid out guidelines. Gracious to Grace says, church is the safest place to be as of now. Measures put there are far much beyond anywhere else I have come so far. I have attended any duty assigned to me. Come and see for yourself. St. Clair Catholic Church in Kasarani. We hear you, Grace. Another one here from Jonathan Murugu, who says, no, the measures that were set by the World Health Organization are crystal clear. In a congregation scene, I'm praying at home. God is omnipresent as well as omnipotent. God heals the world, or God healed the world and graciously hears. Amen to that. Salma Owino says, I feel more close to God at home. Well, where I live, there's a mosque which is close. I think the feelings are as good as mine. I'm too afraid of being among the numbers. And Salma, take your time. No one is forcing you to go into those spaces. As you said, God is everywhere. Teresa Amenya says, no, I have not been to church yet. I'm over 60 years and the government advised us to stay at home. I pray from home and I'm satisfied. Glory be to God. That's all we have, at least for this hour, but I'll take one from Edwin Mogunde, who says going to church doesn't imply holiness. People should learn to distinguish between being a faithful and a church goer. I haven't attended church services, neither am I planning to, not anytime soon. Various church activities contravene various MOH stipulations. I'm beyond trusting my neighbors. Edwin, we hear you. It is important to be cautious and to also take personal responsibility. And we take a short break at this point. When we come back, we talk about the future of the church. We've gone into the digital space. How do we cater for the needs of the congregants? That and other questions will be answered right after this break.
Ndovu flours are fortified with vitamins and minerals to provide wholesome goodness for the whole family. Ndovu all-purpose flour makes the most delicious chapatis, mandazis and all other pastries. Ndovu is readily available at your nearest shop. Ndovu Tosha.
Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam taught us about plague. He told us that if it's happening in a place, don't go. And if you are in a place that is happening, don't come out. Prophet was preparing us for quarantine, and he was also telling us to take precaution, that we should not be agents or carriers of the virus. It should not be us who are going to carry the virus, take it to our congregations. For this reason, our congregations, we've decided that since faith is in the heart and everybody knows where his faith is, we have taken this time to stay at home, pray at home, do our prayers, because when you're at home, you are still with your Lord. God will not forsake you for being at home because you are not in the mosque, but know that even at home, you can still pray to God that He helps us in this big pandemic that is in the world.
Breastfeeding is not only a foundation for a child's future health and well-being, but also a critical element of worldwide development efforts to create a healthier, prosperous, and sustainable planet. However, the COVID-19 pandemic and the resultant response actions by government have had negative effects on nursing mothers. As a result, their access to health facilities, inadequate human resource for health, leading to tasks shifting and/or burnout, have directly hampered breastfeeding education and counseling services. On Thursday, 6th August 2020, the Nation Media Group will hold a live virtual Nation Leadership Forum from 7:30 p.m. on NTV. With the help of a panel of experts, it shall delve into this year's theme of the World's Breastfeeding Week, Support Breastfeeding for a Healthier Planet, and delve into how stakeholders aim to garner support for the practice of exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life. Nation Leadership Forum. Engaging society, impacting the nation.
Finding the truth in these uncertain times has become certain. Possibilities for business even more convenient with the Nation e-paper. To enjoy this and more, simply dial *550*1# for Daily Nation and *550*5# for Business Daily on your mobile phone and get 50% discount on the e-paper. Yes, for just 20 shillings each, the truth will find you and more possibilities right where you are. Dial *550*1# for Daily Nation and *550*5# for Business Daily today. Terms and conditions apply.
When we moved from analog to digital, we took the opportunity to share our talanta. And the rise of local radio represented our voices mtaani. New ICT and educational platforms are going to make sure that no one is left behind.
Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world.
Thank you for staying with Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Today we're talking about COVID and religion. Definitely a lot of disruption in our places of worship, but a lot of adopting that needs to be done and continues to be done. And speaking of which, places of worship across the country continue to strike a tough balance between allowing conglomeration of worshippers while enforcing the COVID-19 guidelines. As Ruth Samuel now tells us, most places of worship are asking for a relaxation of some control measures.
At the Jesus is Alive Ministries Church in Nairobi, worship is underway. Congregants are distinctly spaced as per the government's directive on reopening of places of worship. The clergy here wants some strict controls eased.
Assuming we can accommodate 200 people per service, assuming we can do even a bit more, as long as we keep the protocols, I believe we shall be able to secure our people, care for our people, keep the virus away, and also nurture our spiritual faith.
Elsewhere, at the St. Helena's Legio Maria Church in Mathare, only 60 congregants have gathered for worship this Sunday. With such a small space, observing the 1.5-meter social distancing rule is a tall order, and so allowing in the limit of 100 is not practicable.
Kitu ambacho tunaona kwamba kinatupea changamoto ni idadi ambao wanaruhusiwa kanisani, lakini
hatuoni kama ni changamoto kwa ubaya, kwa sababu lazima tuangalie kwamba kujikinga na korona ni muhimu. Wenzangu hata kazini kuna watu ambao wamepatwa na korona na wamefariki.
It is such activities in places of worship as the Holy Communion and close embracing that pose a great risk to the health of worshippers. Indeed, alarming infection numbers have resulted from uncontrolled reopening of such places across the globe. Reverend Vincent Alicho of the Holy Family Catholic Church Kiembeni is urging congregants not to abuse the control measures and cause another closure of places of worship.
We should do our best, our possible best, to adhere to the guidelines that have been given by the government so that we can curb this pandemic that has come amongst us. We don't want to live this way. We want to live a normal life. But before we do that, we have to sacrifice.
Ruth Sarmui, NTV.
In the new age, the new normal for all the worship institutions in this country. And I'll start off with you, Pastor Carol. Mavuno Church just pulled off a Fearless Summit digitally for the first time. Has this season now taught you a few things that you can do differently?
It definitely has. For us, we are looking and saying this might be the norm. You know, by the time, you know, people feel safe to come to church, it may take a while. Already we have seen the age limitations of above 58, and we are also seeing below 13. I mean, our congregations are young. And so even in the, say in the Western world where the churches have opened, they're only seeing 12% attendance. And so what this is saying is that, you know, we may be in this situation for a long time. And probably the thing to say or to ask is what new models should we be adopting in the interim? You know, we do not know how long this is going to last. And so for us, we feel that, yes, we still need to do our leadership conferences. We still need to do our services. We just have had to do them online. And it was the most amazing experience. And we are even discovering a lot of interesting things now that we did it online. In that, I think we had people from 26 different nations attending from far-flung places, you know, places that we were really surprised. Mm-hmm. And that's and what I'm trying to say is that there are opportunities. We may look at this time and say, oh my goodness, we cannot attend a church physically. But if we adopt the digital, the opportunities are just amazing. So I think for us that, you know, that's what we are saying. Look at the opportunities much more than what we could be missing out.
Reverend Buri, from where you see it, how is technology being taken up? And is this just for now, or in the future we'll go back to congregating in the same space?
Oh, Gladys, let me just maybe just make some reference from history. Mm-hmm. For instance, when the printing press was invented, one of the biggest beneficiaries was the church, because that's when the Holy Book was made, was produced en masse, right? Mm-hmm. And so at that point, the religious movement, the Christian movement, rode on an innovation, right? Mm-hmm. Then came the ship and the aeroplane, right? And those were, you know, industrial, you know, innovations. And then the missionaries actually were able to travel the world through that innovation of the ship and also the aeroplane. Mm-hmm. And then also when you look at broadcasting in the early years, when the radio came on and the TV came on, the evangelist Billy Graham, for instance, used this means to build the ministry that he did. And so it's time for the church now to take up the digital space, right? It is not a time that we are going to go back. I would say that COVID has sanitized the web space. Yes. And so the church now must live there. And as Carol says, is that we now have to think about how are we supposed to be present there, and not whether we are supposed to be present there. But very important, Gladys, is also that it's good for us, especially a person like me who is in a congregation that has people who are senior and therefore may not access technology as easily. So it's very important that we also think deeply about how technology can also be accessed. The technological advantage can also be accessed by people who we can say are on a day-to-day basis not on the web. So that's an important space of innovation, because we must carry everyone on board without leaving anyone behind.
Now, worship in the new age takes a lot of attitude change, and this is something that probably should be taken up by the leadership. How is the Muslim congregation taking this up?
Number one, we keep on telling them that this is the reality and we have to accept the reality. And one of the things that people now are learning to live with is, for example, our preachers were trained to preach to people who they can see in person.
Yes.
Now they're learning how to preach in an empty mosque with only the camera as your audience.
Yes.
But you know, at the end of the day, this information is going to trickle down to the people. Of course, as religious leaders, our role is not only to talk about purely spiritual issues, even social issues, because you find when there's a marital problem at home, they rush to religious leaders. Okay, now the institutions are not open. Religious leaders now have to be trained, and we are retraining them on the use of the various social media platforms. Because, for example, I receive so many questions, like couples want counseling through WhatsApp or through other platforms. So our religious leaders now have to retrain themselves or be trained on how to use these different platforms. And again, we are training them that there is no conflict between religion and technology. And actually, there is a reference for that in the holy books. In the Quran, we are told the source of all knowledge is God Almighty. So this knowledge that we're having now, technology, you know, it's not just, I won't say it's just an accident that COVID-19 is happening when we are so advanced when it comes to information technology. And I say, maybe God had a plan for us that this thing will come when we are so advanced and you can reach out to so many people without meeting them in person. So embrace technology. Of course, as they went through their trainings and the rest, they never thought one day this will happen. So they need to retrain themselves. And the people also have to accept that I have to listen. I must listen to a sermon online, and the same feeling I was getting when the imam was standing in front of me, I must get that. The only problem we have now is a class of people who want to believe that they are so godly that Mungu yuko, God is there. If God wants me to get COVID-19, I'll get it. If God doesn't want me to get COVID-19, I'll not get it. Tell them that is not religion. Religion tells us, play your part, then leave the rest to God. Actually, in Islam, we say, tie your camel, then now you can leave it to God to take care of it. And I keep on giving this example when I'm preaching. I've yet to see a person who is spiritually so high up there, so close to God, that will leave their doors open at night. Leave it to God to take care of you. You lock the gate, put an askari there, metal grill, and then I now trust in God. Same thing. This is the reality. COVID is a reality. Forget about what is happening in other countries, because you know they are calling relatives in other countries. They're saying, hapa sisi kwetu misikiti imefunguliwa, maskuli zimefunguliwa. We are in Kenya. We are dealing with this problem as Kenyans. It's a reality. We have to embrace technology, and we have to take all measures, do all what is humanly possible, and then after that, Mungu tusaidie. That's what we should do.
Okay, now Reverend Canon, one of the recommendations by the IFC to the government is that only 100 people can attend service. We have seen from the previous story is that there are worship leaders that are actually asking, or religious leaders who are asking, if my church can take more than that but still keeping to the laid down procedures, why can we not accommodate them? Is this something you're still relooking into?
So the guidelines for reopening of places of worship is what I'm holding now. And these guidelines were prepared by a group that comprises of both all the Muslims, different groups, and the Christian groups and the Hindus. And in these guidelines, we basically came up with the issue of numbers. numbers are critical because of tracing. If, for example, in a worship service, there is one person who may have coronavirus, they are like, if they don't observe the guidelines that are contained in this book, then it will be much, much easier to trace the people, because it will be easier to trace 100 people than if, for example, you had 1,000 people. I know this is something that we have discussed quite a bit with religious leaders across the counties, because they are saying we do have capacity for 5,000 people. Why are you limiting us to a number of 100? 100 is not a magical number. 100 is just a number that we thought would be helpful in terms of tracing. The second issue is the social distance, because we said social distance must be 1.5 meters. And that is a space that is good enough for somebody who is speaking like the way I'm speaking, for any droplet to fall before it attaches on the next person. The third issue was the issue of wearing of masks, so that then there is no transmission from one person to another. So we believe that at this stage, because we also came up with 4 phases, at this pre-opening phase, it is very important to observe the issue of numbers, because every day we are seeing the numbers going up. And as the numbers go up, meaning that there are more people who are living within our communities and perhaps who are attending our services that are open, that are positive. So it is possible that a positive person can come to a mosque or a church and go home without infecting a person if these guidelines are followed. So we are asking the pastors, we are asking the imams, we are asking all the bishops and all the religious leaders in the country, please observe these guidelines. They are there to protect us. Let us also protect those who are elderly and those who have precautions, because they do have, if they got the disease, it will be much, much harder for them to be able to fight it, unlike other people. So that is why the numbers are there. They are not for us to stifle worship. It is for us to allow worship. But in some cases, Gladys, what we have said is that there can be more than one service. For example, for our Muslim brothers, they can have up to 5 services because they pray 5 prayers in a day. For the Christian community, they can have more than one service as long as there's spacing and there's disinfection and cleaning up of the places of worship before the next group of people come. And this does not just happen on Sunday. It can happen on Monday, on Tuesday, and the weekdays. As long as people can be able to keep the guidelines that are contained in this book, I can tell you for sure people will be able to worship without necessarily transmitting COVID-19 to other people.
I saw Sheikh Lithoma shaking his head. Yes, what don't you agree with?
I don't agree with what the Reverend said. Maybe it's because he's not a Muslim, he doesn't know. When we say about 5 times a day, those are different sessions. And for each session, it has to be said within a specific time. So you cannot say we are going to have 5 sessions. It is wrong. And that's why we should not treat all religious communities as homogeneous. Each religious community has its unique way of doing things. Take, for example, the 5 daily prayers. The first prayer is supposed to be from 5:30 and it ends before 6, before sunrise. So you can only have different sessions within that half an hour. Then we come to the midday prayer. It begins from around 12:30. By 2, that is over. You cannot do any more sessions from there. Then we have the afternoon prayer, which we call Asr. It has also a small window also. Then we have the sunset, which has the smallest window of time. So when we talk about sessions, we have to be sensitive to the uniqueness of each religious community. So just a point of correction, with all due respect to the Reverend, each religious community must be treated with its uniqueness. So for us, the sessions can only be limited within that window that is open for a specific prayer. Multiply that by 5 times a day, 7 times a week. That is how unique it is.
So I guess the question here would be, with that laid out already, how are you now implementing it within the guidelines to ensure that everyone has some opportunity to be in the mosque?
Yeah. What we are saying is that the mosque is going to be opened between this time and this time. So those who can perform, like Eid, the way it was announced, most of the mosques were announcing 3 sessions. So within the specific time for the prayer, then you can have 3 times. So it's tell people to come early. But we have a problem with the numbers also, the number 100. And I'm glad the Reverend has said that it's not a magical number. And that's why we are saying that should have been left, even in this pre-opening phase. It should have been left to the individual religious institution depending on the capacity. A mosque like Jamia Mosque, which I represent, has the capacity of 7,000 people before coronavirus. With the social distancing, which we have clearly marked, minimum 1,700. Then you tell us only 100. Our staff only are 120. That's why we say that should have been left even in this pre-opening stage. And that's why we are saying this pre-opening stage, we are not opening the mosques. It's closed now, except for the staff. We are waiting for phase 1. We haven't started phase 1. Many people don't know out there that we have not even started phase 1. Phase 1, the number 100 will be lifted. Social distancing, taking of temperature, sanitizing will remain. But the numbers will depend on the capacity of the institution. And that is what we are waiting for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well explained. And still on Islam, Boko Haram's insurgency in northeastern Nigeria has claimed more than 36,000 lives in 10 years and forced around 2 million people from their homes. The jihadists have also stepped up their attacks in the Lake Chad region, abusing Nigeria, affecting Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, and 4 people were killed late Thursday when rockets slammed into Maiduguri, the main town of Borno State, where Boko Haram first emerged. Conflict of a different kind has gripped the northwest and north central of the country, hitting the states of Zamfara, Kaduna, Sokoto, and Katsina. Here, criminal gangs have spread terror in rural areas, stealing cattle, carrying out ransom kidnappings, and carrying out ruthless raids on villages. But despite all that, those in Nigeria and in the affected states still celebrated Eid al-Adha. Let me bring in my colleague from NTV Uganda, that is Walter Mwesije. Thank you for joining us. And even as we talk about religious institutions, what is the situation like in Uganda?
Good morning, Gladys. And the situation here in Uganda is that places of worship are still under lock and key, and there hasn't been any decision that has been taken to even consider them reopening. However, the Interreligious Council, which is a body that incorporates all religious leaders here, submitted a proposal to the Ministry of Health with some guidelines on how they are going to follow up on the standards of operating as put forward by the Ministry of Health on how they can open up their places of worship. And we've seen previously, some of them complaining that, there's, and, all the other places of worship can no longer put up, with the current situation because they don't have finances to run the other key facilities or, key things that actually help the places to look as they look like. For example, pay workers that help sweep the places, all that kind of cleaning and just the general expenses around the places of worship. So in the proposal that we managed to see, and I have read, some bits of it, it's quite a big document. They put forward suggestions, including, having ambulances around the places of worship just for any emergency, buying protective gear for, team of health workers that are going to be contracted by these places of worship to ensure that they carry out for example, checking temperature, and they also say they are going to train their staff on how to detect some of these things, like using a thermometer, that handheld thermometer to check for temperature, and put forward things like social distancing in how the congregation is going to sit or when people come up, and also reducing the numbers. But of course, this is still being considered by the Ministry of Health. The last statement we heard from the ministry was that they are still looking at the document, but there is no hope that it's going to be something that they will implement in the very near future. And this is because that we are now starting to see a steady rise in the number of community cases, especially here in Kampala. We have some districts that have become hotspots now for COVID-19, and you are likely to get infected if you're not very careful. In some 3 districts, Amuru and Tororo, and these are districts that are close to Tanzania and South Sudan, and of course Kenya, which generally have higher cases of infections than Uganda here. But all that said, the ministry is still, you'd say a bit lax in trying to detect, though they have put out teams to conduct a survey to actually find out where these cases are coming from. But they're not very sure. Some of them are a mystery, including the deaths that we have had. The results of the people who have died from COVID-19 as released by the Ministry of Health have come out, much later, even after some of these families have buried their own people. So it's still tricky, and the government is still really looking at considering even another lockdown. That's a statement that was said yesterday by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Health, that if we really don't follow the guidelines, then they will probably, put up another lockdown, majorly for Kampala city, because that's where a lot of activity, takes place. And most of the people who have died are from within the city.
Now, when we talk about behavioral change, you have said that there is a steady rise of infections, but Uganda has been applauded for following the guidelines before, and that's why the number of deaths was at 0 for months on end. What has changed?
Yeah, well, that is true. And of course, with our history with, some viral infections like Ebola and, SARS and MERS, the difference now is that, this disease, very highly infectious, you'd say, like Ebola. The difference here is that the things that were put in place to stop the spread of the disease, the lockdown really affected people very much. They couldn't earn, they couldn't, get food to eat. So it's just, you'd say, instinct, and people have to survive. So somehow the government couldn't supply food and couldn't keep up with supplying food entirely. So the people initially have to just walk out and look for food and look for money, to keep their families up together. And that's where the major problem is, because if you took a stroll to our downtown area, people are no longer really caring about the guidelines, no washing hands, people are moving around without masks. And of course, you can't entirely blame this to the population. If we still have things, we have, cases of people who have buried their own, who are said to have COVID-19. So these contrasts, cause a kind of apathy. People stop believing in what is true, and they just decide to walk out like that. That's, I think, what is affecting our population right now.
Okay, Walter Messenger joining us from Uganda, NTV Uganda. Thank you for that update on the outlook of Uganda. We take a short break, but before we do, I'm told you're still talking to us via that hashtag New Normal, even as we understand your experience if you have been back to your places of worship. And if you haven't, why are you staying away? We have Diana Mumo who says, no, I haven't gone back. I'm a mother of a 7-year-old and 3-month-old baby. Watoto wapelekwi kanisa, so yet is still in the house. We hear you, Diana. Very critical, especially for the young ones. Nyams Kambu, who says, I haven't because I have no one to leave my 8-month-old baby with. Let me continue worshiping at home. Bado nabarikiwa. A lot of parents that have been affected by these laid out procedures or guidelines. Fiona says, sisi ni wale wazee, serikali ilisema tubaki nyumbani. Tafadhali Fiona, stay at home and protect yourself. Mary Maria says, yes, in all the places I have gone, our church, PCA Karatina Church, interesting. It is good to hear that people are congregating but following guidelines. Vincent Oma says, not yet, because my church accommodates about 5,000 people in a single mass. I don't want to be number 101 and miss the entertainment we were having before COVID-19, but I really would like to go. We hear you. Walter Dawes says, yes, I have gone twice. The first time it was boring, but the second time I can tell it's now peaking its lost glory, and I'm glad that some of the restrictions are being lifted slowly, so we are hoping for more lively masses with kids available of 7 years and above. Well, as all the panelists have said, this is the first phase. Certain guidelines have been put in place, and this will be reviewed even as we move to the next phase. Time for a short break on Your World. We'll be back with much more.
Various institutions have reported over 800 million units of unclaimed shares among other assets. To find out if you are an owner or beneficiary, dial *361# or visit www.ufaa.go.ke.
Breaking news from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
Pata smartphone mpya kuanzia 20 bob daily pekee ukilipa mdogo mdogo. Weka down payment ya 1000. Lipa kuanzia 20 bob daily kwa miezi 9. Piga *544# kuona kama unafaulu kupata 4G Neon Ray Pro. Si hapo Safaricom ni yako kabisa.
To achieve great things in life, you must do little things every day, like the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate.
1, wake up. 2, brush up. 3, smile through your day with a fresh breath and strong tea. Smile through your day with a fresh breath and strong tea.
Do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate and give yourself a future to smell about.
Lisa, my darling, you know that I will never forget you. But life goes on. I think the time has come to give myself another chance to be happy.
My father spent 2 years locked away feeling depressed. You show up and everything changed. Why's that, Luciana? What are you getting out of all of this?
One thing's for sure, you need to find a way to fix this.
All right, you know what? You're not giving me orders. I know what to do and how to do it.
We know that's not the case.
Better leave me alone and let me do things my way.
Along Came Love, in association with Blue Band Peanut Butter.
When we moved from analog to digital, we took the opportunity to share our talanta. And the rise of local radio represented our voices mtaani. New ICT and educational platforms are going to make sure that no one is left behind.
Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world.
It is your world. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Let's look at the other world. Now, the daughter of the well-known Mexican ranchera and pop singer Alejandro Fernandez held a wedding despite Mexico having just overtook Britain to become the third hardest hit country in virus deaths. Jose de Jesus Barba Oficio La Misa, a priest, said the wedding was a very well-prepared ceremony, very liturgically prepared with the measures of COVID in place. In the run-up to the Muslim festival of Eid the car wash owner Sheikh Sahir sees much of the traffic at his business in Pakistan's capital Karachi switch from 4 wheels to 4 legs as locals bring him their sacrificial cows, bullocks, sheep and goats for a thorough scrub down. Sheikh Sahir started the cow wash when he cleaned his sacrificial animal ahead of Eid after opening his business a few years ago. According to the Sheikh, he mixes water with the detergent and shampoo as well as disinfectants so that the wash makes the animal free of the virus. Mohammed Uzair, a customer, said, "We can wash our animal at home, but we bring our animal to be serviced here because washing it makes mud and puddles in the street and that annoys our neighbors. So we bring our animal to this service station. The charges are like 100 rupees and that's nothing to them." Hours before the son of Bollywood actor Amitabh Bachchan tweeted the news of his father's recovery from coronavirus, fans of the Bollywood superstar performed prayer rituals for the recovery and well-being of the actor at a purpose-built temple, and Bachchan had been hospitalized for 3 weeks after testing positive for the virus.
Social activities that we do every year, we are also performing a puja and aarti for his well-being and for his quick release from the nursing home.
जय! एक बार फिर से बोलो अमिताभ जी की जय! बोलो राम स्वरूप अमिताभ जी की जय! और प्रेम से बोलो।
As we bring this conversation to a close, Sheikh Lee Thome, weddings, funerals, baptism for those that do so, circumcisions for those that need the church to bless such festivals or ceremonies have been put on a hold, or now they have guidelines to it. How are you handling this?
Of course, differently. As I said in the beginning, it's not business as usual, so the funerals are not being conducted the same way. But this is one place we are having a lot of challenges. I think whether it's a religion and also our African culture is like we want to give somebody a big send-off. So controlling crowds at funerals, I think this is where we are not yet there. The guidelines are not being followed, and I'm talking from experience. Last week we lost a sheikh, actually on the day of Eid, we lost a very prominent sheikh. He's called Sheikh Muhammad Shabana, may Allah rest his soul in peace. And it was difficult, because people wanted to come and participate in the burial of this big sheikh in the usual way. So it was very difficult for us to keep on controlling the people. So we need to give a lot of information to the people. The guidelines up to now are limiting the people who are supposed to go to the gravesite to 15 only. And that is if it is not a COVID case or a suspect. If it is COVID confirmed or suspected, then you leave it to the medics. And for us, we have a team. We have the Muslim COVID response team that is dealing with that. Weddings, again, this is another place that we're having a problem. Of course, we cannot tell people not to marry. But one advantage, we are telling the youth, can you take advantage of Corona now, COVID-19, because the expenses are very low. Yeah, hakuna biryani nyingi, hakuna pilau nyingi, just a few people. And again, we're having problems, especially with the ladies. I think ladies have something when it comes to weddings. They still want to crowd the place. They need to come and usher away this girl who is beginning the new life. So we need to keep on giving a lot of information to the people that we cannot do things the normal way. We might celebrate today, we enjoy, and then regret tomorrow. So we have a problem here. but we have to keep on educating our people to do things differently now. Of course, we don't have baptism ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, and Reverend Buri, the loss of Reverend Kanai hit home for the PCEA. Did you have challenges controlling the crowds during that funeral, considering that he was a man revered by many?
Oh, definitely great challenges because everyone wanted to be there. You know, all the the congregations that he has served wanted to be there. The ministers' fraternity, all of them wanted to be there, but I mean, it was not possible. But still, the numbers when it came to like visiting his home were bursting. But the best that could be done was to obey the social distancing and limit the time that people were gathered there. A great strain in many ways. And as Shay has said, people want to come. People want to, send off this dear one. And one interesting thing, Gladys, is that when you watch the clip, you find that the people wearing the PPEs, what you do not know is that they're actually ministers. Yeah, they are reverends actually wearing the PPEs as they send off their our colleagues. So great challenges there, but we keep, there's space for innovation as we go along, space for innovation in other areas as well. Funerals are difficult, very difficult, and especially because you have to hurry. Conducting a funeral in a hurry, whereas the family is mourning, you feel as a minister, what are you exactly doing? Are you burying? Are you focusing on the dead? Are you focusing on the living? So there is a certain dimension. There's a tension going on there. That is really forcing on us a new culture that we didn't have before, because it seems the rules, the science is forcing on us a new culture. For how long it will go, we do not know. Whether it's going to be with us, we do not know. But a lot of challenges there. And comes to weddings, on the other hand, Gladys, it's interesting because I have a few young people who have chosen to get married now because there is no budget for the reception, which is which is fantastic for them. And so I mean there are interesting dimensions of these ceremonies, and we are to see more creativity in areas like for instance, baptisms. We need to, because baptism is an important sacrament. We are to see creativity there, but we hope to see some theologically friendly, but also scientifically friendly modes of doing that. But I'm sure that if once the church thinkers rake their heads and look at the liturgies, I'm sure there's room for creativity there. So difficult in some places, but I think the theological thinkers are wearing their cap to think and see how we can go on with these ceremonies even at this particular time.
Pastor Carol, Reverend Buri has touched on the gap, especially when it comes to loss and grieving. So much, the funerals are in a hurry. People want to be away from each other, of course, because of the guidelines have to do with COVID. Where does that leave the family, and what is the church doing to ensure that they still cater for them at this trying time?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have seen, when we talk of, I think for us, this COVID time has really been a time of innovation, of praying, of asking, God for divine ideas, on how to, go about some of these things, some of these rights, that are so important for us as a faith. And so it's very interesting, the number of mashakayas or wakes that we have done on Zoom has been amazing. And we've discovered that even doing them on Zoom just allows the family that time to talk. And because on Zoom, you're not limited. You can have as many number of people as you can, just depending on the package that you have for Zoom. But I remember attending one where we officiated the Zoom meeting, and then afterward the family just stayed on with a few friends, just to condole, just to think about the person they had lost, to share memories. And very interestingly, it happened even with relatives who are abroad. And the beautiful thing was to see everyone being able to participate even children. It was a night meeting. And whereas before, children typically don't come for these condolence meetings, now they can do that, on Zoom, on media, and relatives are, far and wide can still participate. So I think, yes, there are limitations. Yes, of course, when you have that number of 15 and it's bursting on the seams, and people not quite understanding or appreciating that, I still feel that with innovation, there still, God is doing something new, and there's still something new that we can celebrate.
Okay, and Reverend Canon, there has been concern about the mental wellness of the congregation. I mean, a lot has changed, a lot to deal with, and especially when it comes to funerals, where you do not have time to walk with people through your grieving process in person. That has created a challenge. How are you addressing this?
Good, thank you very much. The funerals is one of the issues that have been of a major concern to our Christians and the leadership. One of the things that you'll find is that where there is a corona case, the limitations and the restrictions are more. Initially, of course, we had situations where people are being buried by public officers at night, and it was something that was of grave concern, because the family is left feeling that they have not mourned the pain and the loss of the death of their loved one. And in consultation with government officials, it was found necessary to allow for the family to grieve, because if people lose a loved one and they are not given ample time for them to grieve, that loss is going to be with them for quite a long time, and they may require a lot of counseling for them to be able to let go of the past. Because we know from an African tradition and also from a religious perspective that mourning of the loss of a loved one is very, very critical. So what we have done is to help our pastors understand that element, and to condole with the families that have lost loved ones. We have a special situation where if it's a COVID case, people may not visit the family. So where it is possible, Zoom meetings and other online virtual meetings are being used to, give an opportunity for people to mourn the person who has passed on. In the rural areas, we shouldn't forget there is no Zoom, there is no internet, so people have to kind of meet in a small scale within the 15 numbers that are provided. And we are working very much with the local authorities there. The mental health of the people is something that we have taken very seriously. There's a mental health bill that is in Parliament, and we are urging the government to take it up, especially the Ministry of Health, so that we have a framework at the national level for mental health. The second issue is now the counseling sessions that people have been having within the religious and places of worship. We have actually opened them up so that even though there are restrictions on the number of people who can attend the funerals, we allow as much as possible for people to come and feel that they have buried their loved one. That, of course, takes a lot of preparation, a lot of retraining of our pastors and our lay people who help in those things, so that then they understand how to work with the family. Because I think the family is the one that is left with the biggest burden of the loss of the loved ones. But the other thing is to, of course, mobilize the material support, because we have people who are dying, for example, in Mombasa, and their bodies have to be brought to up country. So helping families, because they are also suffering economic loss, is also something that our churches are doing on a daily basis. Thank you.
Okay, so we have talked about the role of the church and the future of the same as far as catering for its congregants. And I'll start off with Sheikh Lithome. Even as we get used to the new norm, your words of advice for both the church and the congregants in 30 seconds, if you may.
My word of advice is that COVID-19 is real. Definitely, God is with us, God will help us, but we have to do our part. We don't just trust in God blindly. Do our part. God has given us the knowledge and the ability to think and choose what is right and what is wrong. Then we trust in God after playing our role. Thank you.
Reverend Deburi?
Yeah, just again to say that this COVID season is a great time for the church, for the Christians to reflect, because the church going forward, the Christian movement going forward, and even the role of the church in the society going forward is going to be new. So this is a good time for renewal. It's a good time for reordering. It's a good time for just reorienting ourselves. It's a rebirth. It's like shedding old skin and an opportunity to just be new. And so let's focus on the newness, because that's where God is taking us.
Pastor Carol?
I think for me, the church of the future will have to grow smaller, and it will actually have to be at the family level where we take responsibility. We cannot outsource the spiritual well-being to the institutions. Neither can we relegate our own spiritual well-being to the pastors and to the religious leaders. So it calls for everyone, even at the family level, taking responsibility for their growth and for their spirituality. And I think that is the church of the future. That's the renewal or the rebirth of the church of the future.
Reverend Cannon?
Yes, for me is a call to prayer for all of us who are religious people in this country, that COVID has given us a time of reflection, and that reflection is showing us our weaknesses, places where we need to do a bit of improvement, places of worship like the place of the family, and that reminder of us to actually not just sanitize our hands, but also to sanitize our hearts and to purify ourselves before God and worship Him. And that is what we call upon all Kenyans. Please let us pray. The Word of God says that when plague or pestilence is sent to us by the Almighty God, if we go to His place of worship and worship Him in truth and in spirit, He will hear our prayers, He will forgive our sins, and He will heal our land. God bless you.
Amen to that. And thank you for all that joined us on this conversation. Sheikh Ibrahim Lithome, who's a religious leader and a lawyer by profession. Reverend Edward Buri, who is a parish minister at the Thome PCA. Pastor Carol Wanjao, a senior pastor at Mavuno Church. Reverend Canon Chris Kinyanjui, the General Secretary at the National Council of Churches of Kenya. And Bishop Martin Kivuva, who had joined us but had trouble connecting with us, who is the head of the Catholic Church in Mombasa. Thank you for making time. And before I bid you farewell, there's still some stories that are making headlines across the borders, and people crowd Ostend Beach in Belgium, where the temperature reaches 34 degrees Celsius as swaths of Western Europe wilt under intense heat. From Britain to Italy, temperatures nearing 40 degrees Celsius or more made face masks almost unbearable for many, as more cities begin requiring them outdoors to prevent surges in COVID-19 cases. Elsewhere, at least 15 children and a woman were killed and dozens of houses destroyed as flash floods lashed a village in eastern Afghanistan. Flooding caused by torrential rain struck a village in Nangarhar province late on Friday, killing a woman and children aged between 1 and 5 years. 4 children were also injured and dozens of houses were destroyed, according to officials. A relief operation was underway to help affected families with the disaster striking as the country celebrates the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Adha. Now, torrential downpours, flash floods and harsh winter weather kill scores of people annually in Afghanistan. And And to the sporting fans, South Korean football fans return to the stadium as the K-League reopens its doors for spectators, but only at a maximum capacity of 10% of the stadium. Fans entering the stadium were required to submit their personal information via QR codes and have their temperatures taken before entering. Throughout the match, commentators urged fans who were seated according to social distancing rules not to shout or sing but clap instead, as such vocal activities were banned inside the stadium. The reopening of stadiums is only allowed in South Korean cities that have the lowest level of social distancing regulations. The number of coronavirus cases recorded worldwide topped 18 million this week, with the illness continuing its march after Australia's second largest city imposed a curfew to halt the spread. Fresh clusters have been reported in countries that have previously brought their outbreaks under control, forcing governments to reimpose lockdown measures despite worries of a further economic fallout. Australia's Victoria state imposed fresh, sweeping restrictions on Sunday, including a curfew in Melbourne for the next 6 weeks, a ban on wedding gatherings, and an order that schools and universities go back online in the coming days. Despite a lockdown, Melbourne has continued to report hundreds of new cases daily, even as other states in Australia have reported zero or a small number. And thousands of Chinese beer lovers left their face masks and various worries behind to gather in large crowds and raise a much-needed glass as the annual Qingdao Beer Festival opened over the weekend. China has largely brought the coronavirus outbreak under control through a series of lockdowns and restrictions, and a small number of cases reassured beer lovers to turn out despite the global pandemic. And at the festival, which opened Friday and runs until late August, drinkers were eating and drinking together, watching shows and fireworks, and sampling the more than 1,500 types of beer available. But all was not entirely as normal. The central beer city is limited to 30% visitor capacity, while staff must wear masks and visitor temperatures and health codes are checked. And to that question of the day, have you gone back to your worship center? If not, why? What has been your experience? Esther Wanjiro says, yes, I have been back. It was great. Attendance is poor, understandably so, as people get used to the new laid down regulations. Chris Kahuria says, at the moment, it's best to worship from home, and the online services have been amazing. If my little children can't go to church, there's no point leaving them in the house. They will still be unsafe there if I expose them or I expose myself. It's also easier to explain to them what's happening when we are all worshipping at home. Very true. Mina says, I haven't, and I must say I loved everything in details, from registration to seating arrangements to the offering too. Well, good one, Mina. Karen Akinyi says, yes, I have been going, and the assistant chief has been visiting to see if we are ignoring the conditions, but I have never seen the assistant chief visiting our market. Funny, but God is watching. Interesting comparison. John says, I have. COVID is not manufactured in church. The same people who don't visit church, you will find them at crowded markets, bars, and in matatus. And now they're on the planes seated next to each other. Personal responsibility here is what is key. Agnes Mungani says, not yet. Doing family service where all family members take part, worship leader, preacher prayers, plus online services from different churches, Barakatele. Karanja Simon, who says, yes, every Sunday since their reopening, there is nowhere that COVID-19 containment measures are being complied with better than in the church. Lots of screenings, seats are well marked and spaced, etc. If I go to more riskier places like the market or supermarket or border PSV, then there is no reason why I should not go to church. It makes sense as long as you keep to the laid out procedures. Well, That has been Your World. My name is Gladys Gachanja. A quick look at what we'll be focusing on tomorrow. Kenya led the region in June to implement home-based care for COVID patients under strict home-based isolation and care protocols at an individual level, and with the number of infections rising in the country. Are we equipped to implement home-based care? Well, tomorrow we answer this and other questions surrounding home-based care. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Have a good day.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
To get One Night Stand by Ibra featuring Harmonize, dial star 811 star 935 hash. To get Dodo by Ali Kiba, dial star 811 star 927 hash. To get Usinipite by Guardian Angel, dial star 811 star 932 hash. Skiza na Nation.
Kumbuka, unapojilinda unawalinda wengine pia. Tuko pamoja kwa hili.
Fact Finder from the BBC.
Just how free is the media in Botswana? We tell you what we found out.
Fake, disgusting news.
How a term popularized by Donald Trump rose to prominence during the Nigerian elections thanks to WhatsApp.
We speak to one of the influential voices on Ghanaian airwaves and found out what makes her tick.
And we look at how new technology transformed outside broadcast here at the BBC back in 1948.
Do your gums hurt? Yeah. Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile? All that in one toothpaste? Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums. Ah, Colgate Herbal. Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
NTV, turning on your world. The following program has been rated GE. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.
We clapped our hands and stomped our feet. Hi ho, hi ho, hi ho. A rig-a-tick-tick and